All right, I think we are officially ready to get started.
Let's rock and
Finally,
roll.
thank you for waiting, everybody.
Yes. I have something I have to do. I haven't been on Twitch in like a month. There we go. I just gave you my Prime subscription.
There you go.
I'm the one.
Yeah, you are like one of the very small handful that actually resubscribed to me, so I
That's
appreciate
right.
it.
No problem, dude.
We're making sure the alerts don't show up on this screen.
Right.
Just in helping with the technical aspect.
Yeah.
I'm a big
So-
supporter.
So if you didn't figure it out from the voice, we have a special guest.
That's right.
Ianbits is joining us.
He's joining the very small list of people who have decided to come back.
Speaks a lot to what I have planned on Saturday nights, and I'm like, yeah, why not?
Absolutely. You want to know how this happened? Is this morning, actually at like noon or 11, I was talking to Charmer. I'm like, hey, are we having a guest tonight? And he's like, I don't know.
I thought it was gonna be Matt, but I mean, the
Um,
hours for that are super weird.
Yeah,
So,
Matt
like,
has some like timing issues, so we're gonna have to plan that one a little bit
Right.
difficult.
But I was like, you know whose phone number I just got?
yeah, that's true.
So I
Yeah.
texted Ian.
I mean, the goal was we knew we wanted to have somebody else that was on the trip because clearly that's going to be a topic of discussion. That in the
Right.
announcements, Matt hasn't been on the cast yet, so he was an obvious choice. But due to his long flight home and his time zone differences, we couldn't make that happen. So we asked Ian back, and for some reason, he's crazy enough to accept.
All right.
I got nothing better to do.
Joins the CVH and Ray Barker crowd.
Nice. It's a good group.
It is a good crew, yeah. So, for people who don't know, I don't know who you are, but if you don't know, the three of us, along with Matt Oblivion, Santos Vela, J-Star, Racy and Agile, and Dust. Am I forgetting anybody? We joined CVH in Maryland at the Bethesda headquarters for a little summit.
I think that was it from the content side. 'Cause there was a lot of people there.
Do you want to say who else is in that picture that they tweeted that we know we're allowed to mention?
Obviously, Pete Hines.
Yes.
Some little unknown guy who goes by CVH, Christian. Peter. I'm trying to get myself to stop calling him Pete because when I say Pete, people think Pete Hines. So, Peter Generos and Andy are two guys from Sparky Pants. I'm not going to try to say Andy's last name because I slaughter it every time that I do. And didn't we have one more? I don't have the picture directly up in front of me, actually.
I don't remember.
The art gentleman.
Yes. I don't know any other names, man.
Yeah.
Oh, you're
I didn't
killing me,
I
Justin.
know him and Santos felt like we're basically the same person.
Yes, they
Yeah.
were.
Sitting across at dinner, they were like they were very, very similar people.
They
Their
are.
barbecue dinner was amazing.
The only difference between the two of them is that Santos Vela, and I mean this with the utmost respect, I don't want this to sound derogatory even though it's going to. Santos Vela in person is stereotypically French.
Dude,
Like, I don't know how else to
You're not
describe
wrong.
it. He was
I'm
a
not
lot of
gonna lie.
fun. I had a wonderful time talking with him, but he was just like so stereotypically French.
what I liked about him is that he's about your and my age, but like he is also me 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It was great.
No,
Hanging out-
he was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Chatting with Dust, of course, was great too. We had a lot of time. We got there to the hotel first and spent several hours just talking Legends and talking about life. And then we were joined by Matt, who actually wore a mask the entire time.
Yep, it was really weird.
That's
Mhm.
not true. He did. He did.
Damn, dude.
Now I'm just gonna let you know he did show his face, and I know that people are gonna ask, so we might as well get it right out of the way. I've seen his face, and it is like if an angel had a baby with Thor. Like it is so radiant and uplifting, and the reason after having seen it, I realize he doesn't show it on camera because he's doing us all a favor. It's like seeing God.
Right.
Like you would disintegrate. It is like looking directly into the sun. Like it was like I could only like sit next to him because even peripheral vision was just melting me. I could not focus.
I understand. I understand. It's like that scene in the Indiana Jones movie where Indiana Jones closes his eyes and looks away, lest he be turned to, liquid.
Yes, yeah, the face melting is what occurred anytime people looked directly at him.
Right. There actually more people were invited to the summit, but they didn't make it. They looked at him. So, obviously the big news thing coming out of it was, I mean, do we want to call it Legends 2.0? Is that fair?
I don't think that's fair because I think that saying something like that is going to scare a lot of people into it being drastically different. And I don't think it's going to be different. I would say maybe phase 2 more than 2.0. 2.0 is like the sort of, in my mind anyway, the sort of thing you reserve for when big changes are coming. And I don't think these are necessarily big changes as much as it is natural evolution. Like all the stuff that we've been asking for a long time, we now have, I mean, no hard dates, but like we have a roadmap for, which is also something people have been asking for a really long time.
That is true. There's a lot going on. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm referring to my notes about what I'm allowed to say.
Right. I know, I was just pulling some stuff up too.
Right. Okay.
But
So-
they did come out and say that, and just to be clear to people, they did go over this, so we are allowed to say it. This is basically, it's gonna launch as the same program, but this is basically a completely different program. They're basically trying to recreate Tessel, but make it a lot easier to change things.
Yeah.
In the future.
No old code.
No old code.
Yeah.
All new code.
And one of the reasonings, like, for that, and again, they've kind of said this publicly as well, but a big part of it is this new version is going to allow for faster iterations, faster changes. It's going to make the mobile experience better in a couple of ways. I don't want to say specifically how because, again, like, if we give you, like, vague stuff, like, it'll make the mobile experience better, and I'm going to say that with air quotes, it's because, like, we were kind of told that unless it's public, then we also can't say it. So just know that there are reasons, but we're probably not going to be like super specific. But there are definitely reasons why this decision was made. And when it's all like final and laid out on the table, and when we can actually talk about it at a future time, it'll make a lot of sense.
I think like the big news can be broken up into a couple parts, right? And I think the first one that grabbed everyone's attention was the addition of Sparky Pants to the Legends family.
Which is a really, given that we met them and they all seem really solid people. Sparky Pants is just a really unfortunate name. If it was if it was a more normal name, I think people would have been more accepting.
Yeah, I have to agree. Sparky Pants is not a great name. What's funny is that like without even trying to be like stupid, I have like missaid their name like 10 times in the last like couple days. Like for some reason, Sparky Dog kept coming out. Yeah. But yeah, they have a pretty limited catalog of stuff they've done previously, right? They did I can't even remember the name of the game now.
Drop Zone.
So they did Drop Zone.
Right. Tell us a little bit about Drop Zone.
Well, so I'd never heard of it, and I went and checked it out. Here's the downside, right? And there's no sugarcoating it. Drop Zone is a dead game as of right now, right? Player base is basically tiny, but there's a like single player experience you can go in and do, and its build is like half MOBA, half RTS. You control, depending on the mode you play, you either control one of 3 mechs on a 3-man team, or you control all 3 mechs and you play it like an RTS. But the game, when I played it, so like I went and tested it out when I found out, I was curious. Game was very well polished. I didn't have any problems playing it. I thought the design of it was like really interesting. I even said to them when we were at the event, like, it's kind of a shame I didn't even know about Drop Zone. Like, I'm a MOBA/RTS guy. I enjoy that stuff, and having tried it, if I would have known, like, I would have played this at launch. So that's like the positives, but the downside is obviously like it didn't take off. So there's no sugarcoating that. That being said, that's the game that like they have publicly released themselves. Other things you should know about the studio is they do other contracting work for other mobile games and other games. I can't say specifically which ones, but I mean, you should know that like mobile development, for example, is not going to be a new space for these guys. They're a team that are all veterans from the industry that have come from other studios when they kind of started this up. They know their stuff, so.
I assume we're allowed to talk about, because if people really wanted, they could probably find this information. The games they worked on, like some of the individual people have worked on in the past.
Yeah.
Not the studio itself. Yeah. So the two ones that I remember was, I think, Kingdoms of Amalur were some of the people, which is a game that I really, really like. And then one that I don't have as much experience with, but is kind of a big online game, which is EVE Online. That was, I think, at least a couple of the people had worked on EVE Online before. So.
Right.
Yeah, the Kingdom one specifically is interesting. So one of the two people we met, Andy, he is currently listed as a producer for the Legends project. He also writes children's books, and he did a lot of the story writing for Kingdom. And I think that just based on the conversations I had with him, that like lore and that kind of stuff matters to him. So for the people who like really like playing Legends because of the lore pieces, I think that is like a great sign.
Yes.
So interesting, because the guy who did all the lore for Kingdoms of Amalur was the guy who did like the lore for Elder Scrolls. Like that was one of the big selling points of Kingdoms of Amalur was that guy.
So the fact that we got one of the writers from that game now like producing this, and there's a lot of really interesting cross connects that are there.
Cool. One of the things that I really liked when we were talking to those guys was how interested, like both in the macro level of the client and the game itself, they were but also how interested they were in the very small, really niche kind of things that were going on. You know, and I'm saying this because I heard CVH say it on the stream yesterday. You know, they were interested in watching us do things like play with Hit and Run, a card that has no constructed application. And they wanted us to play with that card and give our feedback on that card. I mean, like, you know, all the things that make this game what it is add up to a very cool, you know, very streamlined experience. And they want, from bottom to top, information on all of that. They are into every single bit of this game. Yeah.
So, like, speaking in like some general terms, right? We did play a build. We were allowed to say that. We can't say like specifics, but we did play a build. I'm comfortable in saying that in any of the things that like we wanted to test, they were very eager to make that happen. So if I said like I want to try this certain game mode or try this certain thing, you know, if it wasn't readily available, they would try to churn that out for us. So they were very like into letting us kind of go loose on it. But then. So that's like the micro level, like what Justin's saying. But then like at the macro level, you know, we did debriefings and things where we would talk, again, I'm going to use like generics, but about like how did like art direction feel? Like what did we individually feel? Not like one of the things I was really excited about was they were saying, you know, yeah, we want to know what you think everyone else will feel, but like what did you specifically feel like mattered most to you, right? Like they want to make sure that, you know, the game on an individual basis is still appealing and fun. You know, they kind of have that mindset of if they can make the kind of game that we want to play, then it's going to follow, right? So,
and to go from there, it's not just about the mechanical parts of the program either. Like they were asking us tons of questions about how we feel about balance, what we think about balance, about the color identity of colors, and all of this stuff. Like they're doing their research.
Yeah, and we all told them Drain Vitality is busted and should be nerfed, so fingers
we
crossed.
Did. Actually, well, we did. I mean, actually, we as a group like sat down and had a pretty serious discussion about balance, which, I don't know. Should we talk about that or?
I mean, we can go over the ones that we like, because when you're face to face with a developer like that, understandably, you kind of want to. Be very careful about what you say. You don't want to be like 2 or 3 drinks in and, you know, you gotta nerf it to 5 cost and, you know, that kind of stuff. So we did actually, I think, afterwards sit down and really talk through a bunch of cards that could potentially be nerfed and just give our opinions on that. And I said this to Link yesterday. I hope they don't listen to us, because I hope they nerf the cards that they want to nerf. But it's just to like be a voice and say like, you know, this is something that you should maybe look at. And even if like they don't nerf the specific cards we brought up, which they probably won't, because I don't know if they're doing any of that stuff yet, but just to kind of give them a better idea of what kind of the game is like currently would be really cool.
Yeah. I mean,
I can agree with that.
I feel also really confident in just saying, again, like super generally, right? They were very, very interested and open to future feedback as well. This wasn't like they were getting our input and then they felt like, you know, I didn't feel like they were going to like disappear for a few months and then we would talk to them again. Like they were very open to, you know, contacting them, sending them stuff, having like an ongoing continued discourse, which was really encouraging.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's unfair because of like the nature of it. But I met some people from Direwolf, and I don't think Legends came up once. And it's just a different experience. And obviously, the nature of what we were doing is we went there to talk about, you know, the Elder Scrolls Legends. So they're going to talk to us about the Elder Scrolls Legends. But getting face-to-faces with developers is really encouraging. And again, I want to stress, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. I hope, oh shit, I'm sorry, I shouldn't use that language, but...
Dude, you can say anything you want on the show.
Yeah.
But I hope they don't listen to it. And not, I hope they listen to us broadly and not in specifics, but it's cool to, you know, if something like that happens, have a direct line and have less having a direct line and more of have a developer that's interested in having that direct line, which is not a common thing.
One of the cool things about the group of people who ended up going is that like we represented a whole bunch of different like points of view on the game, you know, like we saw it the most. I think one of the places it was most evident was like when we were all playing the build we played, right? And like Mad Oblivion and I are trying to break the game, and Ian, you and Dust were playing more competitive style stuff because you're better.
I mean, we did autofill. We did autofill.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the only one who like went in and built a competitive deck was me.
All right, fair enough.
Sorry, Ian.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm kind of a narcissist, and I wasn't paying attention to what you were doing, so I just took it an assumption.
I mean, what you guys were doing was really interesting.
Honestly, what everybody was doing was interesting.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that later. I will say this: they did say we could talk about some stuff at future dates, right? So it's not like we're never going to be allowed to talk about it. And I do look forward to, as it becomes public, like sharing our future thoughts as it rolls out, because there are some great stories to tell. But
we can also say that we can probably also say that was not the only reason we were there, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming up that there's reason to be excited about. We can't talk about yet, but some of it is gonna kind of like, it blew me away, so some of it's gonna blow you guys away.
I totally agree with that, but I do have to say, and we kind of talked about this when we were there, the thing that I think I was most shocked by was that they had made the announcement about the switch to Sparky Dog or whatever, Sparky Pants, while we were sitting in the basement of Bethesda HQ. Yeah,
we actually found it out simultaneously.
Yeah,
right.
Guys,
no cell reception, no internet.
Closely down to the minute we found out.
Yeah.
There was a very small group of people that maybe knew ahead of time, but for the most part, like the people on Reddit found out at the same time that people sitting in this like theater style thing. We can say that because that's in the group photo. They had us in this basically like movie theater that's in the basement of their HQ, which is really cool. their HQ was cool. I don't know what I can say about it. I guess
yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, like I guess
that's the one thing I like. No, we're not allowed to say.
Yeah.
Crap.
Well,
about
so
that.
I'll
Let us
say
take pictures in the lobby.
I was gonna say, yeah, they wouldn't let us take pictures in the lobby. The lobby is cool. I've heard supposedly you can find pictures of the lobby like online. Some cool statues, like sorts of things you would expect. I thought that the building and the layout was very interesting, but they were very like, yeah, you can't. Like there was security a lot of places too. I was shocked at the amount of security in the building they have at any given time. They take that shit serious. We were allowed
to go was the bathroom, and even then we were escorted.
They actually said while we were there that some people try to like fly drones.
Yeah.
What they're doing. People like get rooms at the hotel across the street so they can look through the window.
Right.
It's the weirdest thing.
We stayed in a hotel about. I mean, it was like a 5-minute walk maybe from their place. That was pretty cool. I want to stress again too, like the upcoming stuff, right? Like I'm just gonna spoil it. No, I'm kidding. There is so much cool shit in the pipeline that we heard about. You know, both short-term and long-term things that they're interested in doing. Like it was really inspiring, honestly. And go ahead.
We're not talking about like the stuff that they've been talking about, like that they've already talked about. Like they want a tournament client in a future release, and they want like stuff like legend leaderboards in future release. There's more stuff like that got talked about. That's just like this is something we're interested in, but and it's something we'll work on, but it's nothing definitive. That's not the stuff we're talking about. We're talking about some definitive stuff that's going to be really, really encouraging for the future.
Definitive, not like, because there are some stuff that they kind of talked about during the stream where they said like, we're doing this because we want this feature to come, but we don't know when. Like Ian's right. There was some definitive stuff that you might find out in the short term. Some definitive stuff you might find out a little bit later, but it is definitive. So, yeah,
it should blow your fucking minds, honestly.
So there are two major criticisms I want to tackle that I've seen, right? Elephant in the room style stuff. One of them we'll just take like direct from chat. So Tolene, I'm probably slaughtering that name, says, most people who had experience in card games has the opinion on the dev change that it might be the end of the game. And Tolene doesn't want to be negative, but since they don't have card game experience and the PR stream didn't answer many questions on this and no information's been given out about card design and developers, how positive are you guys in this change from the card design development area? Do you guys want to tackle that first?
I'm asking a question in our secret chat.
I don't know. I don't know who that is, so I don't know if I can answer that.
Yeah, so I'll be super generic to start, and maybe this will help, like, lead into where you guys feel comfortable talking. We know that Sparky Pants has clearly never like made a card game before, like Direwolf had with Eternal. We know that Eternal has like some ex-MTG pros on staff, but I think what many people may not know directly in the gaming space, and this is not just true of card games, but like board games and things like that, is that a lot of times the people that do your actual game design don't often work directly for the company either way. A lot of that work is contracted. A great example, we'll use Artifact right now, right? It's no secret, Valve is making a card game called Artifact. It's also no secret right now, Richard Garfield helped to design and work on it. Richard Garfield does not work for Valve, right? He is somebody who basically has been doing contracted work. The rumor is he brought them the game, but he doesn't work for Valve. So if you look at the Sparky Pants website and you say, like, I don't see any names I recognize, I guess I would say to you, that kind of doesn't matter right now. Because the people that you would be most interested in seeing may or may not be there anyway. And then to the other point, they did say in the Pete and CVH stream, so I will also repeat that, which is if people that were contracted and doing that kind of work at Direwolf want to or whatever continue working for Legends, that door is certainly open. It's not like they're saying, no, this is a hard split, we're going a different direction. That is not the case. Whether or not those people are moving, who, etc., we obviously can't talk about that. But I would just say, like, if you look on the website and you're like, I don't see anyone with card game experience, I would just say to you, like, do not be shocked by that and do not be worried by that, because I wouldn't expect to.
Yeah. I think if you want to be fair about criticisms, and there's a lot of things you can say, I think that's probably the most fair criticism I've seen. Is the worry about it, because it is a case that they're gonna need to bring some people in. Like I think we would probably all be a lot less positive about the change if we were like, everybody who is currently at Sparky Pants, those are the people heading card design, and they're not bringing anybody else in, because it is true that they don't have card game experience, and they're going to need to bring in people who do, because it's not an easy thing. It is one of the hardest things to do. You have like multi-million-dollar companies that screw it up on a regular basis, like Wizards of the Coast. These are guys who have like a huge amount of experience, and they screw it up. That's how hard it is. I mean, Direwolf screwed it up too in the past. So it's something that you have to watch it. I don't think you can make an assumption yet, because I think if Bethesda's bringing on another development team, it's pretty clear that they're kind of getting behind the game, and they're not gonna, limit their resources and trying to find people who are going to be good at this.
Right.
But I think it's totally fair to be very hesitant about that. If you want to wait and see about anything, it's that. But what I wouldn't do is say that there's no way it's gonna work, because every card game ever has started from. I mean, not every card game ever, but most digital card games come from people who don't make card games, and then they find people who do make card games to do work.
Yeah.
I think that. I have to address this. Jungle 4Man 3 says, Can you guys comment on the issue of Maricon being eligible to enter and clean up all the competitive events now? That I would love to see him enter a tournament.
That's super thanks, by the way, for his future trolling.
Oh, fuck.
Also, for the record, we can't comment directly on whether or not he can or is eligible to enter, but it would be nice to see. Yeah,
it would be sweet.
That'd be amazing.
I mean, we know he's probably the most experienced player on Earth.
Probably. So Ian kind of started to touch on what I felt like was the other elephant in the room, or big criticism I've been seeing lately, which was some people were saying that this was like strictly a budget move, and that this is proof that like Bethesda didn't want to pay Direwolf more money, and they're going with what they were calling a budget studio. And it just kind of makes me laugh, because they said during the PR stream that they were paying for a period of time, and kind of still are, 2 developers to work on the same game. You don't do that to save money. Like, that is so like, I can't talk actual numbers obviously, but like, you don't do what they are doing out of like trying to cut costs. I'll put it. You don't rebuild a client with 0 code, right? Yeah. So they've said that publicly as well. No code held over. It's not like Direwolf is handing Sparky Pants the old code base, and they just like are going, all right, now you guys maintain it. No, they paid somebody to go do this from scratch. That is not a budget move. So,
I mean, I think factually they were spending more money now, Blue Barbers. I don't think it's actually debatable that they were spending more money, because I mean, we had heroes. We found this out about Direwolf, and I think they said like 2 weeks was what it was going to be. But we found out that they've been working on this client for months. Heroes of Morrowind came out like what, a month and a half ago.
Right.
Yeah.
You can, for at least like a period of a month to 3 months, and that's like minimum. They were paying for 2 developers for the game.
Right.
Like that's a huge amount of money. And if they wanted to save money and they were going to bring on a new developer, they wouldn't do it with a new client. They just say, use the old thing and make do. It costs a lot of money to do what they're doing. So.
I mean, at the end of the day, Bethesda is a company that is interested in making money. Like, they want to make great products so they can make money. I mean, I'm sure that there's some like spiritual interest in like entertaining the masses, but you know, at a certain level in a company, they're going to be driven by profits. If they're willing to spend money to fly our idiot asses out to Maryland, like, they have tremendous faith that they can make this game even bigger and more successful than it already has been.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the goal. I mean, obviously that's the goal of any game, but I mean,
Right.
I think when you make such a drastic change as this, the natural thing to think is, you know, what was the other thing they could have done in the situation if they felt this was necessary? And
Right.
the other thing was, okay, cut our losses. You know, Tessel had a good run, and let's move on. And they didn't want to do that. They wanted to double down and get even more behind the game. So,
and I think it's safe to say that, like, things that we know are going to come that will be announced in the future at some point are going to just further cement this faith that we have that Elder Scrolls Legends is not going anywhere. Like, it's sticking around for the long haul.
That's one reason to be encouraged as well. It's just that basic idea. The fact that, and we've seen this slowly start to improve since I think it hit a bit of a low point. I think probably right before Clockwork City came out, of people just wondering whether Bethesda even cared about the game. And I think that's something you can't really dispute anymore, that they really are trying to get behind this and give it every chance to be successful. Like, and there were points when you didn't feel that, where you didn't feel like they were giving it the best chance to be successful. But
yeah,
I think that's definitely true now.
I totally agree. It seems like like all of 2018, I guess, in my mind, has been like this like renaissance for Legends. You know, I think this is going to be the third time I've said this, but like, I can't think of a better time to be a Legends player than right now. You know, I said it when CVH was hired. I said it when Houses of Morrowind came out, and I'm saying it again now because I just keep learning more and more cool stuff. And I want to say one more thing about my experience, like playing with the build that we played. Like, I've been playing this game for over 2 years now, and I had that same, like, when I was in the closed beta and I started playing for the first time, I had this feeling of like enchantment, like of like being transported and like being a part of something cool and huge. And I have to admit that over the years, like, I found different ways to enjoy this game. Like, I'm no longer like transported. Now I'm sort of a little more cynical, although I'm finding ways to enjoy myself. I had that feeling again playing with the new client. Like, I had that feeling because it looks gorgeous, and it just, I was honestly moved, and I'm really looking forward to other people getting the hands-on experience so that they can have that experience as well.
So Malibu Barbus in chat mentions it must have sucked for them to keep quiet when people were saying negative things when they literally have another dev working on the new client. Listen, I can't obviously speak for them, but I'll tell you, we've known for a very short period, and there are obviously things that we wish that we could share, and it sucks for us having known for like a couple of days to not share. I can't imagine what it's like to be Pete or CVH, who knows all of the stuff that they're like actively doing at any given time, and see the comments and just be like, you know, like, what do I do? Like,
and it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, I mean,
they're
right?
probably losing money
You
off
know,
it. Like bad PR matters, and they can't really do much about it.
And I know I say this basically every time I interact with Pete, whether it was the first time he was on our podcast, whether it was meeting him at PAX East, and I'll say it again about this experience. You don't understand how much they care about this game until like you really have a conversation with him in person. Like, Pete's eyes twinkle when you talk to that dude in person about Legends. Like, he is so into this.
He's a card game dork.
He
spent about 10 minutes talking about Magic the Gathering playmats.
Yes.
He did.
Hey, speaking of playmats.
Oh,
guys, I know you guys saw him during the stream, but I think it's supposed to be a mouse pad, but I was literally going to use this as my Magic the Gathering playmat. Look at this.
I'm actually using it as a mouse pad because I don't have any friends to play Magic with.
Oh,
yeah, look at this, gorgeous.
I've been taking it out of my bag. It's really nice. It also smells really, really bad. I don't know why.
No, you're right. You're right.
It's because they keep it in the Bethesda dungeon.
Yeah. Wait, hold on. If we're showing off cool shit we got there, I have a couple other things to show. I'll be right back.
Yeah, he's gonna show off his face more. Like, we don't need to see more of his face.
We can answer Lilybux's question. I would put myself at about an 8. I am one of those people that is I need to see stuff about the cards, and about how the cards are going to be designed before I'll be like truly convinced. But this is the way I put it, and it's the way I'm going to continue to put it, because of the new client and because of the developer change. There were things that I, as a person who has played this game for a huge amount of time, had just straight up given up on ever seeing in the game, and those are back on the table now, and that's absurdly exciting. Like, there's things I had convinced myself were never going to be a part of Legends. Tournament Client is an example, and those are going to be a thing now. So
yeah, I mean, I'm the exact same way, Ian. Like, for those of you who are listening to this audio version in the future, in chat somebody asked us to say a scale of 1 to 10, how optimistic are we? And I would also say an 8, and that's as somebody who considers himself, I wouldn't say a pessimist, but like pragmatic, more like a realist. There are certainly ways that this could go wrong. Obviously, there's reason to be scared or uneasy whenever change like this occurs. But with what has been like laid out in front of us, both publicly and privately, and just like Ian said, all the stuff that I thought wasn't going to basically ever make it into Legends is now kind of back on the table. If you want to know what we're talking about, you can go as far back as like last year when Pete was on our podcast, and we would say things to Pete like, what about custom avatars, and what about all these things? And he would say like, I agree, where are those things? You can kind of get the idea of like, I think there's plenty of reasons to be excited. So
I'm surprised he didn't come back with the shirt. I thought he was coming back with the shirt.
he did. He held it up in front of the camera.
Yeah, I do want to say I have a couple extra shirts, and I'm gonna figure out a way to give them away. they even say at the bottom here, Secret Legends Cabal money May 2018. God damn it. Yep. Did you guys know that you can get T-shirts custom made and mailed to your house in 5 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they also gave us these cool cards. Marak, Wabbajack, Blood Dragon, Blood Magic Lord, and Torval Crook.
There's old school Wabbajack too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Check this Wabbajack out.
Yeah. That's a blue. It's a blue
Tough to
Wabbajack.
see, but it's blue.
Yeah.
They're all extra large, Immortal King. You can't contain that face on a medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that he got Pete to put one on and take a picture with it.
Yeah.
That was the entire reason he did it. That's the only reason he made it for. It's because he wanted it to be like less of a. He wanted the subtle peer pressure.
Yeah.
Pete to have to put it on.
I mean, you're not wrong, dude. We flew United, and you get one bag, and my bag was filled with 17 T-shirts. I didn't bring anything else with me.
Oh, I want to be that security guard.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wore one through the airport too. That was great. It was awesome.
So, some other things were made public. I'm going to transition. People won't see your handsome, gorgeous faces for the
Thank
moment.
You. Wait, what?
But I went and I gathered the images that are public, because again, some of this stuff we got to see and directly interact with. Some of it we saw some versions of. So the first one I've got up right now, and I apologize for the people who listen to this in the future for the audio. I guess to you I would say IGN put out an article that contains some images, and if you go to the Legends subreddit, CVH has also put up some of these images specifically about like the tournament client. So if you want to see what these look like, I would recommend you go in there. But this, what's currently on our screen, is the one that was released in the IGN article that showcases a mock-up of a potential like landing screen, right? Like the menu, if you will. and it's certainly different, right? Like I can understand people that are a little bit uneasy here. But what was your guys' thoughts the first time that you saw it?
Thought it looked like Heroes of the Storm.
Okay, I love Heroes of the Storm, first of all, and second of all, I thought that it looked great. I love it.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. It just looks a lot like Heroes of the Storm. I think it's the background.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I thought it looked great when we saw it before we got to play with it, and I thought it looked great when we played with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's fun.
You can display so much more information on this.
Yeah, I think one of the things is that multiple people said, "Oh, look at the opportunities for monetization," which is like the opposite of true. Because the reason it fools you is because it's got the 3 currencies in the top right, and that's how every mobile game does it, where they have all like the currencies in the top right. You earn one of them, and the other 2 you have to buy, and there's a plus next to gold. But that's functionally meaningless because anything you can buy with gold, you can also buy with money anyway. So buying gold is kind of doesn't actually mean anything, even if that's something that does end up coming in the game.
Right.
And this is like a mock-up, so we don't know that for sure. But yeah, that criticism was very confusing to me.
Yeah.
It also handles so much better. Like, I mean, like playing on mobile is kind of a nightmare going through different menus, but playing on desktop is like, there's a serious delay, like moving between screens and stuff. So much so that like one of the not infrequent comments on my YouTube channel is, "Hey, can you edit at that time?" To which I of course say, "What about my time?" But
Control X is really hard, and you have to do it twice.
I know exactly, and so this moves seamlessly. You click something, you're there.
Yeah, and so one of the things I really enjoyed was the current menu has a lot of things where in order to get to it, you almost have to click like 2 or 3 times. Where with this layout, everything was like pretty instant. I would say like criticisms that I had personally, I didn't notice where the deck builder was right away because it's only the text, and I didn't have like the icon that I was accustomed to. That's the sort of thing that they can maybe add or emphasize more. But like outside of that, all of the other stuff did feel fluid. I liked the transitions. They didn't give us, so we asked about in this, you can see where it says season progress, not player level. We kind of tried poking them about that, and they didn't really share anything extra about what that could potentially mean. I liked having the daily quests right up front. It was one of those things that like in the current game, other than when you first log in, you have to like click on your profile and then go see like, okay, what was my quest again? And then maybe back out, go build a deck for your quest, go to the play. Like I really liked having this on the landing page. I will, one last thing before Ian jumps in, I will also say the actual image, right? So like Almalexia and the space thing, I can't talk about like other things there too much more than to just say that's not necessarily set in stone or the only one, and that I've seen some people say like this went from a Legends theme to a space theme, but that space thing's supposed to be like the constellations, right? Like it's our end of month reward screen, it's your level up screen in Skyrim. Like if you don't feel like it's a Elder Scrolls thing, like that's what they were going for. So
Yeah, I was actually just going to say the same thing. Basically, you said to the people. I understand people who are like, oh, it's kind of weird that this is an image of Almalexia, and maybe it'd be better if in some way you could change it. Just keep in mind that the entire purpose of this is to be able to be a lot more iterative, right? Is be able like to take small things like that, or like equivalent is like a new avatar, and make it like billions of times easier to implement. So if that's something that people end up having an issue with, I don't see a reason why that wouldn't end up making the game in some way.
Yeah. Also, speaking of iterative stuff, again, don't want to say outright specifics, but expected downtimes will be significantly less. Like,
oh, they talked about that on the live stream yesterday.
Did they?
Okay,
I didn't miss that part because I couldn't hear
right.
some of it when I was at the airport.
I rarely watch those, but I wanted to make sure I didn't fuck up today.
I didn't get a chance to watch it because I've actually spent combined about 30 minutes of my life not either sleeping, streaming, flying, or working over the past 2 days. But I did read the Reddit thread that went through it and was like, okay, cool. I can talk about how it's actually like a brand new build and stuff like that. I don't have to be super big.
Right. So, yeah.
So one of the other interesting things, so I know a lot of people are saying things like, you know, I kind of like the old one, and I grew to enjoy it, and they did say that one of the things that they were like, again, nothing set in stone, right? But that they were kind of like toying with, I think this is the image I want to add, right? There we go. Was that the entirety of the old game lived here, right? So this is me stripping away everything. You play the game on this screen, your menu exists on this screen, like you open packs on this screen, everything you do is on this one screen. And as cool as it is to like do something on a scroll, other things exist in the Elder Scrolls universe, right?
Yeah, he said because the legendary icon, if you have like a legendary card, it's like a scroll opening up, so you're playing scrolls on a scroll.
Yeah. So
I feel like when we were in the meeting, like, so I heard Santos Vela say, or maybe it was Dust say, scrollception. One of those sarcastic.
That sounds like something does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So other things that we'll talk about. So this is another thing that IGN showed, and it caught a lot of criticism because of the like colors and saturation, and you can't even like see the full board here either. So to this, I feel entirely confident in saying, and I don't think this is an issue. Whatever it is that is in this image, it's not the way that it looks now.
No.
Like I can just tell from looking at it right now that like some of the cards do not look this way. They don't have like this weird faded saturation. They're still very crisp looking. But even like as I look at some of the borders down below, those are not the current versions that we got to play with.
Right.
I personally like the new board that we got to play with. It did feel exactly as like homey and like in the Elder Scrolls universe as I would have expected.
Didn't you guys have that feeling that I was talking about? Like that kind of just like, I don't know. I just felt like wonderment. Like I loved it. I thought it was gorgeous.
I mean, it's cool to make something new again. And I think that's the goal. And Immortal King is great because I love the fact that cards look like an actual cards on a game board. And I think that was something they stated.
Yeah, it's just those colors.
Pieces of metal. They're
cards. Yeah. Right. They actually went through a lot of very specifics about like things they've been working with and toying with to make the cards feel like either not just like more like cards, but more like they're made out of very specific materials at time. You know, because while we've kind of grown accustomed to like that existing border, they kind of feel chunky. Right? Like heavy. So but yeah, this I can say without a doubt, like this image is not what was in the current build, the little piece that you can see. And I thought that what we were playing with, again, I can only speak to personal taste. I thought it looked good. I was very happy with it.
I agree. I thought it looked good too.
Yeah, and if you guys even as you move forward, if you see images that you're not happy with, just keep in mind how much of a task this is and how much of a work in progress it is. Like this is basically changing to a completely different sort of level on every single day from what we were gathering from them, because this is a pretty massive undertaking. And
the impression that I got is that like they are, you know, at a point in working on all this where they're still receptive to feedback, right? Like if you feel really strongly about what you see or don't see, post on the Reddit, you know, post on the Discord, tweet, you know, at CVH. I'm sure he'd love to read those tweets, and let them know what you're thinking.
Other stuff, right? So these ones are the last one. So now we're going to look at the bracket screen, and then also the like pending versus screen, if you will. These are what CVH shared about the upcoming like in-client tournament support that is planned.
And this is something that like they've been talking about doing. Like I remember when I interviewed AJ and Matt like 6 months ago or something. They were like, "Yeah, we really want an in-game tournament mode." You know, like this is something that they've wanted for a long time.
Furious to me. But yeah, I think everybody sort of wanted to. It's such a weird thing to kind of want, not necessarily want, but a weird thing to focus on when you think about like the percentage of the player base that does tournaments. But then the flip side of that argument is, in reality, how hard should it really be to implement? And
Right.
That's part of the new client, is that something like this, which in theory shouldn't be that hard to do, becomes
Right.
in reality not that hard to do.
Yeah. And we asked a lot of questions about possibilities, and they were open and receptive to a lot of it. And I mean, obviously this is very important to Ianbits. You know, he's done a lot of casting work. Justin's done casting work. Like, we want the competitive scene to flourish. So this was near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. And this was a big topic of discussion while we were there.
Right. I think it's important to point out that Swole Simba was robbed, and I am rooting for him in the losers bracket.
Yep. But yeah, exactly. I think Zenith makes a good point as to what it's going to be great for. Is like, remember when Yowie used to run those tournaments, and he would do it like off of Google Sheets and stuff like that. Imagine how easy it would be if like you could get people to do this in game. Like the numbers just go up, and while tournaments are a small percentage of the player base, I can speak from personal experience and say the tournaments are something that takes you from, you know, kind of casually enjoying this game to figuring out how.
Right.
Trying to figure out more ways to play the game. Basically, figure how much of life can I justify spending on this.
Well, do you I mean, I don't know. I mean, how many of you guys remember the Creatureless Challenge that content creators did for a while there? Like, that's the sort of thing that, like, if you can set parameters in some kind of hypothetical tournament setting thing, you could set up a Creatureless Challenge tournament, and it would be a million times easier to execute than it's ever been before.
Right. And so this is another interesting thing. I know Ian said that not everybody plays tournaments, but I feel like there's a fair number of people in the casual crowd that, if given the right tools, so let's just hypothetically say Chaos Arena lane changes, right? Some of those people might be more willing to organize like friendly, let's go play a zoo lane tournament or something. You know what I mean? So even if it might not be like this is ultra competitive, blah, 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 even just creating those like custom game modes or whatever, I personally, I kind of hope that we see a subset of our player base do that, right? Kind of flourish in that.
That's never been a thing in online card games.
Right.
It's always been a thing in Magic.
Right.
Like all these crazy different formats.
Two-headed giant, commander.
That's never been a thing. No online card game's really done that before, and this is the option for maybe Tesla to try to do something.
Well, and it's something that I said to the guy who looks like Santos Vela at dinner, which was that, like, going to Friday Night Magic doesn't make you a competitive player. You know, like, casual players, like the vast majority of us want to play in tournaments. We just don't, you know, we're never going to qualify for the ones where Ian or Dust are beating us, you know. This is an opportunity to play with people on our level. I say this as a guy who would love to play in a Creatureless Challenge tournament or like a casual thing on a Saturday or something like that.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and I think it's probably not. It's probably okay for us to say this, considering this is something that they've shown you, that out of the things that they've kind of showed us, that this is the one that's closest to being implemented into the game. So that's something we're really excited about.
Yeah, I'm legitimately excited, and they did say that they were also going to do their best to put some additional tools in for like supporting the smaller scale events as well. So again, if you think like, well, the only way I can earn prizes is if I play in these ultra competitive things, like they were open to some different ideas and different ways to pitch things. So they want to make this work. Like, you could tell this was really important to them, in different modes, different styles. Yeah.
And you could tell that Pete is somebody who has played in Magic the Gathering tournaments. Was genuinely pissed that Tesla doesn't have a tournament client yet. He was actually mad.
Yeah, actually hearing him talk about playing Magic, and like talking to people about their playmats and things, and it was really interesting.
You know what else made me think about? How much MTG Arena sucks.
I wanted it to be good.
I wanted it to be good too.
So also one of the interesting things I kind of wanted to throw up was, so this is like your versus screen hypothetical mock-up for playing in a tournament, like you're getting ready to start a round, if you will. Right. And I thought that this was a really like interesting screen or telling screen because it had a match history that if you then go back and look at the bracket, right, when they're paired together, you can see this match history is your tournament match history. So I don't know if it'll be like a long time tracking thing. They didn't cover this with us, or I don't know if it'll just be tournament to tournament, but even just being open to the idea of tracking tournament specific match history and what that could mean for the future, right, is kind of a big deal. Like I could almost imagine a world where like maybe they still have ladder, but then they also do stuff based on like your tournament performances in certain things, just like Magic does. The fact that they are because they didn't cover that with us, but the fact that it's on the screen and it's something that they're clearly thinking about is enough to get me excited about potential there as well.
Excuse me, I will excuse myself for just a moment while I try to figure out if we're allowed to talk about something.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta ask real quick. This is Zenith Dragon. You said you got a nice MTG playmat at GP Denver a few years ago. What year was that? Sorry, I'm just curious.
Well, you take today's year, Justin, and then you subtract a few years, and clearly that's the year.
Bro, I couldn't even subtract real numbers. Like, I need specifics.
I'm pretty sure we're not allowed to talk about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yet.
I actually had something I was going to say too, and now I can't remember what it was. Something important.
Yeah. So that's kind of it for. I'm going to put our faces back up now, right?
I remember what I was going to say. Like, consider like who came, right? Like, there were a lot of content creators, but there was also J-Star, the guy who for 2 years now has organized and run the Elder Scrolls Legends Champion Series. Like, the tournament push with this client thing is real. Like, they care about this stuff a lot. The fact that of all the Legends related people in the world they could have brought, like they brought J-Star, is huge.
Yeah. I think he was the only non-streamer that got invited, right?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, that wasn't on either of the teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
to be fair, I've only streamed 5 times.
So now let me ask you guys a future-oriented question. How excited are you guys for E3?
Hold on, I'm looking at the seat. No, I'm just kidding.
I never get super excited about E3. The problem is they're gonna with every game they're just gonna talk about a bunch of cool stuff. 3 months. It gets me like, God damn it, I want it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I'm excited for E3. I mean, both because like, over the last couple years of playing Legends, I've gotten a lot more familiar with the rest of Bethesda's catalog, and I'm always interested in what they got going on. I'm excited to hear what they announce for Legends and stuff, so I know what things I'm allowed to talk about. And also, like, I don't know. It'll be really cool to see everybody else's reaction to this like new chapter in Elder Scrolls Legends. I think this is the sort of thing like, a new developer, a new client, all this that like marketed correctly could be like a huge expansion of Legends. Plus all the other shit that like is coming out of the pipeline.
We can talk about
that I also think will be huge for Legends.
That's why I'm staying mostly silent. I feel like we're rubbing up against a lot of stuff that I can.
No, but to be totally fair, even before Charmer and I ever signed an NDA, we spoke about the game the exact same way.
Yeah.
That's why we have the technical difficulty screen, even when we didn't know anything.
Yeah. It's just more suiting now, but
right. Now there's just the possibility of a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they have.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna not say more.
Yeah. I do feel like it relatively soon we should go to the interactive part of the podcast because I know people got a lot of questions.
Yeah. No, we should probably transition to that now. It's about that time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been kind of keeping an eye, but let's like officially open it up. Fire those questions in. We will do our best to dodge them.
And if you guys have questions about the current state as well, I know a couple of people are
quite.
talking about the current state again.
Anything about Legends past, present, kind of some stuff about the future, and also it doesn't even have to be about Legends. You can ask us about whatever you want to talk about.
Here, I'll ask a question. Answer it. Hey guys, what were the? I'll ask a question as the audience. You guys can answer. Hey guys, you guys mentioned that you talked about nerfs that you were discussing.
Oh yeah.
With the new developers. You want to go in depth about what those were?
Sure. Yeah. We came up with 4 proposed balance changes. We sat around and talked about this for a couple hours and hammered it out. We proposed Hlalu Oathman to 1/1. Do you want to go into the details of why?
The effect is cool. The effect makes sense. It's a unique card, so doing 2 things that Hlalu sort of includes in his class identity means you probably shouldn't completely gut the card. And the fact that it's a free plot enabler, I think, is really so nerfing the Magicka, while it makes a little bit of sense, I think it's better to just make it so the body isn't as good. Like, those effects are the reason the card exists.
Exactly.
The downside is you get a free 2/2 out of it, which is kind of dumb.
Right, and at a 1/1, this is something we all kind of agreed on. Like, it meant that an early one could still be traded into positively by an opposing player, and it wasn't going to be as snowbally and explosive. Yeah. We proposed Drain Vitality to 2 Magicka.
Just makes it. It's still maybe the best card in the game at 2 Magicka, but just makes it so it's harder to get the early 3 that wins the game instantly against aggro, which is kind of the big bullshit thing.
And Tel'Vos Magister to, at the end of your turn, if Tel'Vos Magister has ward, you gain ward. Very small, subtle change.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like that. It's never gonna happen because it's probably too complicated to put on a card, but it's awesome. The idea that you have to think about whether you want to trade the Tel'Vos and take the value trade with the ward, or keep it for the sake of protecting face.
There were 4 other cards that we mentioned, that we talked about being like a little too powerful, but like we couldn't come to any kind of consensus about changing. Those were Goblin Skulk, Ulfric's Uprising, Wardcrafter, and Hand of Dagoth. And then we proposed that Duke Venom Dren triggers himself.
So Buffalo, but
yeah.
I mean, Duke is so bad. He's like, I mean, 5 mana 4/4, draw a card a turn is not overpowered. That's Ash Berserker.
He's like objective. I mean, I know it's a targeted tutor potentially or whatever, but he's just like so objectively worse than all of the other tricolor unique legends that giving him a buff, it just reminds me of like when they gave Brynjolf a buff, you know, taking him from a 4/4 to a 4/5 just to make him, you know, usable felt right, you know, fine. I think that Duke, you know, playing him and getting a card feels fine. Like he's your unique house like spokesperson legendary in a 75 card deck. He should do something splashy.
As it stands, it's almost always going to be worse than Genius Pathmage.
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately it, right? And then, like, even comparing him to Sun and Shadow, the drawback on Sun and Shadow is almost non-existent, but it still is, like, a targeted tutor that has better stats. You know what I mean? So...
Just because I hijacked with that question, to make sure the people who jumped in the first questions don't get lost. Justin, are you still playing Eternal?
Oh, yes, I am. Yeah,
Eternal's a really good game. I
agree. It's an awesome game. I love it. It scratches the itch that I wish MTG Arena scratched.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a different kind of game. Games with it's such an advantage, I think, of games that have non-guaranteed mana, is they can be really creative with their cards because there's always that inherent balancing with really powerful stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's the truth about Magic and Eternal and stuff like that is that sometimes you just don't get to play.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the downside.
I mean, that happens
and
in
then-
Legends too, but that's because you got all of your Manticoras.
All right.
And then JHTV was one of the first ones as well. I said, what are your biggest concerns about the future of the
I mean, it is possible that Sparky Dog hires a bunch of.
You need Sparky Dog again?
Oh yeah. that they hire a bunch of guys who don't know how to design card games, and some horribly unbalanced set comes out, and the game is ruined.
Yep.
I mean, look, it's possible. A meteor could also hit their offices, right? I mean, like.
I think the first one's more like, because I think there's a very small number of people on planet Earth that can make card games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gotta find them.
I mean, that's a concern. I guess for me, the only reason I'm not like... I'm less concerned that they hire a bunch of people who don't know how to do card games, and just more concerned with that they don't hire people at all. Because I don't think that they're going to hire people who don't know how to do card games, right? Like, they're going to be very selective in their process. They're not going to grab, some guy off the street. But my only concern would be if they just can't find the people that they would feel confident in, right? Like, and I say this as somebody who, my day jobs, I manage teams. I've done hiring. Like, I just went through a round of hiring in my day job 2 weeks ago where I'm bringing on 4 new people into my team. And I can tell you that's a rarity where I found 4 quality candidates. Usually you have a candidate pool and it's really hard to find people that you are going to think is a fit. And this is a very niche job, right? Like the pool of potentially good applicants isn't probably really large to begin with, and so then trying to find people you think will make a great team, I can see that as potentially being a challenge. So to me, it's not. I'm not worried that they aren't gonna hire quality people. I just worry that they may not be able to find them the way that they would want. That would be my concern. But that's me applying my HR nightmares to their scenario.
I hope they find them.
Yeah, I think they'll have every resource to do so. Soldier Ron asked the question that I don't think we're allowed to answer.
Which one was that?
Do you think the next set will be delayed while they hire?
Yeah, we definitively can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I would love to, but
technical difficulties screen.
yeah, here, hold on. Let me put up exactly what we can. There we go. Yep, there's everything we know about the next set. Yeah, sorry.
I'm glad that made an appearance.
Yeah.
We knew it was gonna happen at least once.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, Eternal Youth asked, will Sparky Pants actually market the game? So many friends who play CCG games barely ever heard of Elder Scrolls Legends. And that's a 2-part question. The first is, Sparky Pants isn't going to directly market it. That's all done through Bethesda. But I would just say that they're not going to sit around and do nothing, I guess is the way I'll word that one. And so the other part of that is that Sparky Pants is certainly being encouraged to be active in the community and do things like developer streams and things like that, just like they always encouraged Direwolf to do it. So
I want to I caught myself because I was about to say and the Sparky Pants guys are really cool dudes. They really seem jazzed about all this. They seem like hard workers who are listening to the community and stuff. But I have to give them their credit. The Direwolf guys have always been pretty cool dudes too. They make great games. They're some of the coolest people I've ever met in the gaming industry. And I really do hope that things with Eternal and with Clank and their other properties continue to do well. And Pete even said on the stream yesterday that Maricon is always going to be a part of the community. He designed this game. It's not like their legacy is gone and you're shitting all over them or something like that. We're just genuinely excited about the future of the game. That doesn't, it's not any slight against the past, because Legends is one of the best balanced games I think that has ever been designed as far as CCGs go. The mechanics are interesting. They took the online CCG concept and made it this really modern, like standing on the shoulders of giants kind of improvement upon almost every system available. This is just the next step in that evolution.
I was gonna say for Eternal Youth, and Griffin guessed, but the same exact answer, which is Griffin. Did they talk about marketing it all during the summit? Yes. Will Sparky Pants replace that with Bethesda? Will Sparky Pants actually market the game? Yes. Based on you can base that on the fact that I said yes to Griffin's question. There's reason to believe that there's a lot of definitive reason to believe that the answer to that.
Yeah. The founder is James P. Sparky Pants.
Yeah. No, you can actually find the like founder / owner has done some interviews back when they were developing Drop Zone, so like you can go look that stuff up.
I'm waiting for them to follow me on Twitter.
But what Benji said, what about the card design? The Direwolf contest will learn they have a job. Direwolf has, I think, 3 card games. One is Eternal, and they have two other like small mobile games that I saw that they were working on at PAX, and then they also make board games, so there's plenty for them to do.
Yeah, and if you've never played Clank, their board game, like it is legitimately the best board game I've ever played. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's actually Maricon's baby. If you guys know Maricon from chat, that is his baby.
It's an absolutely incredible game.
Yeah, so I mean I would just say they aren't just card designers at Direwolf. Like they're game designers who just also work on card games, so they'll have plenty to do if they decide to stay or whatever they decide to do.
You know, I think they also, at least a year and a half ago, they also did the online version of the Pokemon.
Yeah, they still do that too, and so that's 4 because there was the 2 small mobile games which I forget the names of, and they have the Eternal and Pokemon TCG that they still work on. So Direwolf's got a lot of stuff to do. Yeah.
Sure, they did Drop Zone, but have they done anything not based on a Wesley Snipes movie? That's pretty good. How much commission does Justin Larson get for each Clank board game sold on the stream? I talk a lot about Clank, but like if you've played it, man, like you'll know what I'm talking about. Like it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And the answer is not enough.
D Savarade says, why did they change developer? And we can't talk about that any more than what has been spoken by Bethesda. You can check out the Bethesda channel. If you go to Friday's date, there's a long stream of CVH and Pete Hines talking about specific.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm sure we missed questions. This happens every week. I've been
trying to make sure we don't. I think.
Yeah. So yeah, keep the questions coming. We'll answer anything we can. And
God damn it. That would be cool, Super. Is Sparky Pants well informed about past patches of the game, or is there a chance we can trick them into buffing out posted?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I would say they are aware.
Yeah. Bring back Outpost. Yeah, they seem pretty well informed about like the game and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's certainly not their first rodeo. He actually, I'm fine with sharing this. Peter Generos, one of the 2 gentlemen from Sparky that was there, has told us that he is active on Twitch, has even subbed to a few of the streamers before.
Oh shit.
And that he also has played a lot of Legends, but he would not, however, tell me what his Twitch or his in-game name was.
Nice.
He said that we could probably like figure it out if we tried hard enough, but
Psycho Banny D wants to know what we think are the top underperforming cards, things that should be good but aren't. That's an interesting question.
Jarell Forager. It should be good because I have a premium set of them, but it's not performing well because it's bad.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, there's not a ton of those in Legends. Like most of the ones like that look really powerful.
Jay Silver says, "Uh-oh, I gotta go, guys."
Yeah. All right, Peter Silver.
But
is the J for Generos?
Oh shit.
But most of them you can figure out if you're like example being like Scar Drill Master. You can figure out like it looks really powerful, but you can figure out why it doesn't work.
Scar the Roadmaster is definitely one that I've tried playing with. You know, in one game out of 10, it's like, oh yeah, this card's awesome, and then you then you lose a bunch of games.
I would say if I had one answer to that, it's Sharp Trash Can. Because
Yeah.
there's so many ways like you could think, okay, this has to work. It's perfect. The deck is totally built around it. I didn't have to make the deck bad or anything.
Right.
And it's just still the worst card in the deck.
Yeah, we talked about that actually in Maryland. Yeah. What else? I kind of got, well, that's a tough one to say.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough question.
Yeah, I try to. Oh yeah, Hatchery Meddler is a good example of that.
Yeah, Hatchery Meddler's a lot of utility.
Yeah, I think Hatchery Meddler is like one of the strongest like low rarity cards that you can grab in Arena. Its constructed applications are much more limited than like it seems like something with that much utility would have.
Back Alley Rogue is another one because I think I've always considered Stealing Cover a really, really powerful effect, and it's like only very slightly understated.
Yeah,
but it's just never been able to find any place.
Yeah. What are our opinions on the debate of Thieves Guild Recruit versus Fighters Guild Recruit? I think Thieves Guild Recruit is almost always better.
I was gonna say the opposite.
Really?
I was gonna say Mages Guild Recruit.
Yeah, that's a card that was like didn't have the huge impact I think a lot of people thought it would.
Yeah, but I lost pretty terribly to it the other day because somebody played turn 2 mages, turn 3 mages, and then a very, very cheap conscription.
Nice. Actually, dude, I gotta try that now. What class was that?
Telvanni, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a sucker for anything that helps you control field. And Fighters Guild on an empty board is still amazing. That's why I love it. So.
It does just like, hey, field lane, what are you going to sacrifice?
Yeah, and it does depend. Obviously, they're both really good cards, Griffin.
Yeah, they are both really good cards. Deranged Corpus and Snowy Sabercat love Hatchery Meddler. I don't know that Deranged Corpus and Hatchery Meddler is a combo.
Deranged, that just gives it kills it. it dies. That doesn't, does it work?
Well, it kills your opponents.
Oh, no. That actually does work. That's true. Because it swaps the attack over to the 5 and he still has the effect, so it turns it into a 6/5. Wow, that's actually really clever. I never thought that one.
So yeah, somebody already mentioned Snowy Sabercat in chat. That's my favorite Meddler target. Yeah. Telvanni Snowy Sabercat, where you put on like Imperial armors and then
it
Meddler.
Doesn't work? Oh, never mind.
That's interesting.
Sounds like it. Yeah, it sounds like that should be a bug. That should work.
Yeah, it should work. Do we feel like a bad person when you listen to Silt Strider Death Cry? Yes, it haunts me in my dreams. I see Silt Strider on the face of every child.
I've described that sound effect as it sounds like you just like punched Chewbacca in the face.
Oh no!
He's not aggressive or anything. He's just he doesn't know why he did it.
That's awesome.
It's amazing that Snowy Sabercat has actually become like an actual reasonable meta card. Like it's become just a solid card in Halalo. There's people like Ione has kind of become, even in Monk, Ione's just started putting Snowy Sabercat and everything. Kind of.
Yeah, well,
delete Monk Strike though, right? Like, is it any good then?
Potentially. I mean, I think it's always been kind of underrepresented for the same reason that like Bannerman wasn't for a while, but the difference between Bannerman and Sabercat is that Bannerman, like, if it gets one attack but then it dies, you can still use the pieces to combo later, whereas Snowy Sabercat, usually it's kind of the same thing, right? Like, if you let it attack, you probably lose, but if they don't have the stuff to make the combo good, like, right then it's less impactful than, say, Bannerman was, but they're kind of the same creature in my mind, in that, like, you play it, and if it survives, you probably win.
Yeah. Something Link always brought up in regards to that is something that I hadn't considered before, is that Markarth Bannerman can also defend itself. Like its trigger also gives you things that help you defend the Markarth Bannerman so it can go off again.
Where the cat just has a big health pool.
Are there any cards we think should be unnerfed? Oh,
we could unnerf Crystal Tower Crafter and watch the world burn.
yeah, I would not want to see that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like a world where people are playing any like betray cards in Crystal Tower Crafter?
I just want to play Crystal Tower Crafter now that we have something like Thieves Guild Fence. Like, if that card existed in old Action Assassin, it would have been a nightmare.
Oh man, yeah, you can figure out like some Crystal Tower Crafter.
Yeah, fuck that. Silver asks, what are each of our favorite cards? What is our plunder?
I mean, I can go first because mine's easy. It's Nord Firebrand, and any cards that make Nord Firebrand. I mean, there's a reason that this is an emote on my channel, right? It's time to fight, baby.
I mean, my answer's always been Barbas, but for the non-Barbas answer, I've always had a secret love for Thieves' Den. I'm trying to make that card work.
Thieves' Den is a good one. I really like Archea and Venom Tongue. I know it's not good, and now it's totally outclassed, but that's a card that I've put in way more decks than I should have. I'm a big fan of Iron Atronach. Yeah, Alter.
More actively, mine is probably Ravenous Crocodile. I really like that card. I've made it work in actual meta decks, which is not true of Thieves' Den. Thieves' Den I keep trying, but Ravenous Crocodile I found places for.
Jungle Man wants to know when I can expect the Caius Casades cosplay. I will say, I have another costume video, like the outline mapped out, but you won't see it for a little bit. Dun dun dun.
It's part of the NDA.
Yeah, it is.
The Sparky Pantaloons have anyone deep Dunmer voice?
Real question, Justin. When can we expect you to do a Matt Oblivion cosplay, since you know what he looks like?
I can do that right now. Give me 5 seconds.
I know this is a softball. I was throwing you a bone.
I'm Matt Oblivion, guys. How are you doing?
Oh, look at you, beautiful Dutch face.
Yeah, I know. Yep. Tease a silhouette? No, I'm not teasing anything.
We did get him to say, "Oh, please." It's fun.
Yeah, we did. That was pretty great.
He said the thing.
Do you think we will see more rewards for finishing High Legend? The investment of time to be top 20 or 100, I always felt should be rewarded. And if what kind of rewards would you want to see if they did?
I mean, we didn't. I think we could say we didn't really talk about much regarding that, but I can say the fact that CVH works at Bethesda now means, yeah, we'll probably see something. Because that's something he.
Yeah. What are our thoughts on Piercing Javelin and Budget Halalu? I don't think Piercing Javelin belongs in most of the current Halalu decks.
I don't mind throwing Cast into Time in deck.
I frequently run Halalu decks with no prophecies in them.
Yeah. But I mean, I think just for Necromancers, I don't mind running Cast into Time in any deck right now.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my answer. I would say if you're truly on a budget, see, here's the problem, right? Like, Cast into Time's in the Forgotten Hero collection, which you probably don't have if you're on a budget, but it's a really good set, so buy it if you're on a budget.
It's what, like 1,000 gold?
Yeah, 1,500.
Yeah, it's 1,500. But yeah, Cast into Time I think is the superior one because it just does more for you, and the prophecy chance of Javelin is so much smaller in a 75 card deck, and especially an aggressive one, that I think Cast has more proactive opportunities to help you than the Javelin does.
Yeah.
Nothing's wrong with Piercing. You're playing a deck that cares a lot about tempo, and in some situations cares about value. And Piercing Javelin is bad tempo and bad value, whereas Cast into Time is at least good value sometimes.
I think that Halalu can take care of creatures they want to remove in 2 more effective ways. You know, they can silence them, and they can trade into them because they're drawing 1 million more cards than you.
Exactly.
So Medieval Gaming follows up with the question, what's wrong with Piercing? So the biggest issue with Piercing versus Cast into Time is that Cast into Time is a way to remove specifically problematic cards and potentially not have to worry about them. Even like if you're an aggressive Halalu player, even as something as simple as like getting rid of Sower of Revenge, getting rid of even like Hive Defender, just problem cards that are going to sit in your way and potentially prevent you from closing out the game. You know, like Ian said, necromancer, giant bats, right? Like if a scout player is dumb enough to leave a giant bat on the board for you and you can hit that with cast into time so that they're not bringing them back later, that is so much more beneficial than just like the off chance of a prophecy triggering javelin. The cast into time is just worth more right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the puzzles. I wish the puzzles.
Galen, that's another great answer too, right? If somebody plays Galen and you see where they put the Galen card on, the minute they play the original, you cast into time it, you get rid of all the copies as well. That's huge.
Well, that's why I mentioned Necromancer, because if they have a Necromancer in their hand, that is always the target for Galen.
Right.
I have a funny anecdote to share real quick. I was playing PD Max's Abomination Scout and Gauntlet today, and I had my first fence and my first Nimira thing creature both cast into time, and I still won.
Damn.
Yeah, it was pretty great.
Seems like prophecies have fallen by the wayside. They have. This happens when there's like meta, and prophecies don't really do that much against it.
Yeah.
Zombie Hunter 9x19. Charmer, with the new client, will there be an option to view the banished area?
Oh fuck, that's something we should have talked about actually.
Yeah. Fuck. Why weren't you there?
That's actual good feedback we didn't offer.
Just go find one of the Sparky Pants guys and.
Yeah. I mean, actually, we should say something about that, because that's an important, like, totally, like, huge oversight that the game currently doesn't let you see that.
Is there any possible adjustments Exalt cards can have to make the mechanic more usable on ladder? The costs versus buff you get on most are so bad. They can just make better cards.
Yeah.
It's not that the mechanic is bad; it's that the cards are really, really bad.
Yeah.
The mechanic is great, actually. It's just.
I've kind of talked about this at length. So the problem with the mechanic is that right now the cards that exist for it, with the exception of a handful of like unique legendaries with very unique effects, the problem is the flexibility that Exalt provides you isn't worth it on either end of the spectrum. It's like you're getting 2 cards for the price of 1, but both those cards are bad. You know, you got like the 2/2 drain, right? Like that costs 2. Well, a 2/2 for 2 that only has 1 keyword isn't good, right? Unless that keyword is ward, you don't care. Unless that keyword is charge, you don't care. 2/2 drain, not good. Or you could pay 5 to make it a 4/4 drain. Still not really good. And that's it's just kind of inherent throughout. Like even the one that's like a 3/3 guard that can become a, what is it, like a 5/5 guard for 6. Like 3/3 guards that have things like prophecy still don't get played. Like
the 4 magic one that can kill a creature with less power than it. Like I can imagine a meta where that card is really, really good. We just don't live in that world right now.
Right. So the way that you get around it is, like Ian said, you just print better cards, and you do it one of 2 ways. You either do things where the stats per cost ratio go from just outright bad to at least like borderline playable, or you make and this is another way you could potentially address it, you make more cards that benefit from Exalt cards being in play. Again, right now we have unique legendaries that do it, but that's about it. Or you could tweak some cards. Like one of the things I mentioned on Twitter a while back was like, what if the power of the Almsivi only affected cards that weren't exalted, right? So like everything not exalted gets turned into a 1/1. Suddenly I have a reason to play that card over other mass removal. Suddenly I have a reason to exalt my creatures. I'd also like to see it potentially be used as a way to make better summon effects. And what I mean by that is right now, anytime you print a creature that has a summon effect, you have to take into account cards like Dark Rebirth, A Night to Remember, Ulfric's Uprising. So it's really hard to put powerful summon effects on creatures without thinking, like, how do they abuse this with the flicker effects? Exalt, however, does not get triggered by those cards. So you could potentially say, here I have a 4/4 for 4, but if I exalt it for like 3, maybe I get this very powerful summon comes into play effect, but I only get it for that one shot because I can't Ulfric's Uprising it, for example. I would like to see maybe some more cards in that vein as well. Yeah, I think the mechanic, like, inherently is fine. It just needs better iterations of how you use it.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it is a good point to just point out like the small little ways if you could move. Like imagine the 3/3 guard that has. Imagine if it was a 3/4 instead. Just instantly that card goes from unplayable to a real consideration. Or it would be more extreme, but the Grand Inquisitor was the 4-cost 2/3. If you made that a 3/3 and it was able to kill Skulk, even if you increase the cost.
Yeah.
Like stuff like Skulk, Daggerfall, Mage, that has actual targets that it just can't hit right now because it's just not good enough.
Right. Yep.
Wish activated abilities were a thing as well. That would be really cool. Yeah. It would be interesting.
I get the feeling that that sort of thing is an inevitability in this game. You know, I mean, they've demonstrated in the past, and granted we have a new developer now, but like they demonstrated in the past like a total willingness to pretty dramatically increase the complexity of the game with each expansion. Like I'm sure activated abilities on creatures will happen.
Yeah, so
it's probably easy, not easy, but very reasonable to assume they could do that, considering supports already have that like exact function. You just have to put it in the creature.
Exactly.
So, somebody else in chat says, Exalt should be sucky non-Exalt, but really good on the Exalt version. I don't think that's necessarily the right way to go, because the attraction to the Exalt mechanic is the flexibility, and if you only ever make it so that one version is good and the other version is bad, then it's basically as if you never played the bad version, right? Like you're only putting a single card in your deck, you're always going to play the Exalted version. At that point, just print the card without Exalt as the Exalted version, right? I think that you have to at least make it attractive in both options without punishing it too hard for the flexibility. And I think that they maybe just erred on the side of caution with this first go-round. But I think that they, you know, like Ian said, could do a couple of minor things just here or there to make them worth the consideration.
I mean, both sides have to be okay. You're correct about it. But in most of the situations, neither side is okay. They're both really bad.
Medieval Gaming asks, is Vivek worth the Exalt, or is he too susceptible to things like Silence and Cast into Time, or even Fighters Guild Recruit, or like Giant Bat into Leaf Lurker, etc.?
Vivek's stat line is worth the Exalt alone without the ability in the right deck in the right situation.
Vivek's comedy value is worth it by himself. That's one of them.
Yeah,
I would
true. Some decks can't beat it.
Just a standoff.
This is what I would say about Vivek. You don't build your deck around Vivek, right? Like, I think that trying to like build the lockout is wrong, but I think that if you play any sort of like willpower control based deck, he's worth the one-off slot because he can accidentally win you games, right? If you play it against aggro and they just don't have an answer, yeah, he can be silenced, sure. But if they don't have it at that time and he buys you a turn, 2 turns, 3, 4, 5, like, he can potentially buy you so much time to stabilize that by the time they find an answer, like, you've just won anyway. So he's, I think, you know, worth the one slot as a Hail Mary for just accidentally winning.
Yeah.
Super kept putting in an aggro to win races, and we did the Eternal Conflict, which is trying to figure out whether he's about it being good or if he's just memeing. every good idea he's even going back to Giants Battle Mage originally, we're like, is he just screwing around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good time.
No, I've seen Vivek a lot.
I've seen some Viveks in play, yeah.
I've definitely seen more of all three of the Tribunal Gods than I expected to when they were revealed.
Yeah.
I thought Almalexia was the best, and that's the one I never seen.
Yeah, I was gonna say I see Almalexia the least frequently, and I also felt like it had the most utility because it was proactive. Like, you could play her, and if you'd already had something else exalted, then you could use her to those creatures to trade in and get like immediate value trades. But that was the incorrect assessment because it turns out you just don't have other exalted creatures ever because they suck, right? Like, in theory, I felt like she had the best like immediate value, but the other two ended up being much, much better.
I mean, I was wrong just because I thought 10 mana, 12 can't be damaged was good enough in mid range, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. Sothasil turns out better than advertised.
Yeah.
He's just
There's
a
very
No,
few-
no, it's a super powerful card. It's just a matter of
There are
Yeah.
very few
Important.
ways to answer Sothasil 1 for 1.
Yeah.
1 for 2, or, well, you know what I'm saying.
yeah.
I don't. That's an interesting question. Sorry, you can read it.
Jage asks, do you think the total amount of Legends ranks should be limited per season?
No.
Yeah,
I don't know what that accomplishes.
Yeah, I don't know what that accomplishes either. Like, to say, you were a legend, but then you got pushed out just to put, like, an arbitrary cap on it feels wrong. I mean, we already have the numeric values, so saying, like, only the top 500 people are legends, like, so what? We can see who the top 500 are because we have the rankings, right? So I don't think there's any reason to not say, these... Because, to me, legend rank... I mean, it is a sign of prestige, but it's also just as much to me like saying these are the people that just put a lot of time and effort into the game. And, even if you're number 3,000, you cared enough about the game to play that long. There's no reason that you shouldn't, have something to show for it.
Yeah.
All it does is exclude people like Griffin Gasp. I don't even know if he's still here. I just wanted to make that joke.
When they add the 5 other houses, they might make more Exalted and Rally cards. It's possible. I mean, like, Rally in particular, because cards like Mundustone can grant it, I feel like is here to stay.
Yeah. Here's what I would suggest as a train of thought, and bear this in mind. I say this not knowing like the future cards or whatever, right? This is entirely speculation. I would not be shocked if the way that this goes is we get Houses of Morrowind. It wouldn't shock me if we get something smaller that also plays up the existing archetypes we just got, and then another big set that has the other 5 houses, and then something smaller for those. I don't think that we're going to go 5 tricolors right into another 5 tricolors, because really, as we saw with Houses of Morrowind, you need a big set to do that, and I don't think they're going to do 2 big ones back to back. But we also did just get a bunch of new mechanics like plot, like rally, etc. I think people want to see more of that, so it wouldn't shock me if, again, we don't get something supplementary first before we get the other big ones. And I say that, again, not knowing anything about that. That's a 100% speculation.
Yeah. Daedric Princess is your guess? That would be cool. I mean, it's just a question of what they want to do for the next major expansion, and there's a lot of directions they could go with it. And in the past, they've linked a lot towards ESO. So I've always contested that I want them to do something new. I want them. There's like the amount of lore in the Elder Scrolls universe that is just untouched.
Oh yeah.
It's just like the only existence of it is the books, Oblivion and Skyrim and all that stuff, and like these cool parts of the world that haven't actually been seen in an Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
Lusty Argonian Maid expansion confirmed.
Yeah.
Apartments of Morrowind.
Apartments of Morrowind.
Yeah.
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
there's still so many things that exist that we haven't seen, and there's also the room, like as we saw with Return to Clockwork City, there's even room for things that don't exist yet, right? Like we got Mechanar and some of those things that were brand new, but we still haven't seen like Dawnguard or the Oblivion stuff, or they like to do ESO tie-ins, right? Like we just got Houses of Morrowind after ESO has been doing the Morrowind stuff, so at some point it wouldn't shock me if we saw like Somerset Isles. There's a lot that they have left to tap into, which is fun.
Yeah. Arena Gath says that Treasure Hunt was a new mechanic, but we haven't seen anything new for it. Treasure Hunt is, in my opinion, the worst mechanic they've ever introduced on several levels. It's like it's not interesting enough to encourage somebody who doesn't really care about winning to build a deck around. It's not competitively viable. it's not supported enough to be,
I think,
to be built on a theme.
yeah, I think there's stuff they could do to improve it, but we've also, that was only released in Return to Clockwork City, right? And then since that time, we got one 10 card pack, or well, 12, right? But I still consider it a 10 card pack because of the singleton stuff. So like we got Forgotten Hero Collection, and that is small enough we're not going to see Treasure Hunt there. And then we got Houses of Morrowind, which introduced brand new stuff. Yeah, I'm not surprised we haven't seen Treasure Hunt since then. I wouldn't say that it's 100% off the table. It just needs more to make it work.
Yeah. The new monthly reward card. Yeah, Blackwood Distiller. I think it's really strong.
I don't want to be the negative guy again.
Yeah.
I think it's really, really bad. I've tried to make it, not necessarily tried to make it work, but I think the problem is it currently fits into only archetypes that don't have enough support, and it doesn't make those archetypes any better. It doesn't improve Mid Scout or Slay Scout, and I think decks already weren't that good. And while it's really cool to have the combo aspect of it, that's something that was already in the game in Torval Crook in a lesser form.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that never, like, that's the big thing. Like the Slay gain 1 Magicka, that's, I mean, it's nice to have that, but the big thing is the Pilfer gain 3 that lets you ramp out these crazy things like 3 turns early, which is a big deal, but it's not consistent enough to, I think, be good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, I don't know if I 100% agree that it doesn't make Mid Scout better. I think it makes Mid Scout better, but I don't think it makes it good enough. Because I was always struggling to find, like, 4 drops outside of Bleak Coast Troll that I cared about running in that deck. So I think I could find room for it, but I just don't think it makes it that much better. Like, it doesn't help that deck beat aggro anymore. And I don't think it makes it as good as the other mid-range decks at beating control. So even though in theory, on paper, I think it makes that deck better, it doesn't make it good enough, is the way that I would personally assess it.
That's fair.
I don't know. And I mean, it's fair to say, it's something that a lot of people brought up, something that Kenny Dota said, that Scouts 4s in general aren't good. But I mean, when you consider something like Mid-Scout, is that better than just running Corrupted Chain, Bleak Coast Troll? And do you need more than 6?
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I would run it over Shade, I think, personally.
I mean, I think it's an argument, and I think the fact that it's an argument means that it's dubious whether it increases the power level at all.
Right, yeah. I personally think that it's better than Shade because being able to, because Mid Scout in my mind doesn't like work unless you're playing against control, right? That's the meta I would want to play it in. And against control, being able to potentially go into a turn 5 Baroness probably wins you the game, where the Shade doesn't like auto win me a game in those scenarios. I don't think that it's good in any other meta than a meta where you're trying to pummel control decks, because Mid Scout is a very like tempo based, like I play big things, but I'm also leaf lurkering your guards, and I'm just trying to snowball style deck. So I don't know.
I will say that at 5:30 in the morning, I was sitting in a rental car out front of our hotel waiting for Ian to come down, and he got in, and I was like, "Hey, Ian." On turn 4, I played Waves of the Fallen this morning.
It's a great way to start a day. There's not a lot of better ways to start a day than turn 4.
So I have done that just the one time though. Every other time it's failed miserably. But I'm also not running that card in an ideal deck at all. I'm just trying to play that combo.
And a lot of it is you're seeing a lot of Ram Scout right now, and Ram Scout is not friendly towards that card. Ram Scout has a lot of answers to that card.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right, last call for questions. What do you guys got?
Donna going in.
What do you guys think about the current discrepancy between 2-color and 3-color decks of the future of the game? Do you think it's going to be hard to keep the balance between them and deal with the high roll state of the game for the current and new dev team?
I think that's a really fair question, and it's definitely something they'll have to keep in mind, because we've seen problem cards already pop up in Haunted Manor and Hand of Dagoth, and it's like you yes, because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage, you should be able to run these cards, but then you see giant, like these huge fluctuations in win rate based on whether you have them on curve, and it's sort of a dangerous thing. I would say we learned from the expansion that you don't necessarily need those for the deck to work, because we've seen Telvanni be really good using only Sun and Shadow.
Yeah.
Tribunal be good using only Archcannon, and that maybe the solution next time is to not do those power spikes, but instead, put all of the make basically the entire expansion around supporting what you think these archetypes could be in the 3 color classes, so they can do those effectively, and it won't be as power spiky as something like Dagoth on 5.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would like to see more things make the tricolor options feel like their own unique style of play as opposed to the classes, right? Like in my mind, even though, let's say Dagoth, right, it contains Assassin and it contains Battle Mage, but like the tools should exist for Assassin to still feel like it plays a little bit different than, say, Dagoth does. And I think they were trying to do that with introducing like a new like attribute or play style with each of the houses, but I don't think that it necessarily landed as hard as they would have liked. Yeah. But I also think that you can do the reverse. And it'll probably be this way for a bit because, like I said, we're probably going to get something supplemental, and then we'll probably get the rest of the houses and then something supplemental. So in reality, we're talking probably pretty far down the line, but I would like to see some stuff introduced that re-incentivizes your traditional class-based decks as well. We've already seen like allies, right, in the core set that almost kind of rewarded you to stack one attribute. I could see something similar where maybe you're rewarded for just stacking 2 attributes, or something in that vein. So again, there's a lot of space. That's the beauty about Legends, right? Like the game is at its core well designed enough that there's a lot of things you can do. It's just a question about like what's the direction you want to take in the immediate future. And in the immediate future, I think that it's probably still going to be an emphasis on making the tricolor stuff feel unique. Just because that's what's new, right? That's what's fresh.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's inherent. I mean, I think it is inherent, but I don't know if necessarily the amount of high roll in 75 card decks is overly problematic outside of those 2 specific cards. I guess you can include Halalu. It's basically Halal, the class card. But I do understand that it's a very frustrating thing to play against, right?
Yeah, I agree.
And super touched on it as well, is like playing around things is out of the window. Like if you're facing a control mage, it's reasonable to play around second Ice Storm. If you're playing a control Telvanni, playing around second Ice Storm is probably strictly incorrect, and then they have it lose the game.
See, I think that's the mindset that we have to just get away from, because I forget where it was, so I can't find the article to link to it, but somebody had done some math a while back where it was like the percent chance to see any specific card that you run 3 of in a 75 card deck was only like 2 or 3% less in your first 5 turns than it was for other decks.
I mean, I'm more specifically talking about that exact second. Like playing around Ice Storm against Tribunal, I think is fair.
Sure, but what I mean is like if it's only like a 3% difference in finding your first one, then it's probably still like less than 10% to find in a difference to find the second one. So I don't think that it's not like, well, it's a 75 card deck, so there's no way he should have it. It's probably like, if we did the math, it's probably more likely still that he does. I think it's more like we just have to retrain ourselves, because I've done that same thing before where I've thought like, all right, well, they've played one, I'm playing against Tribunal, maybe they don't have the second one. No, they always have the second one. So the minute I retrain myself to like, okay, what do I do if they have 3 Ice Storms? It's been better for me, I guess. It's annoying, but I think it's the right line of play.
It'd be interesting to see what the exact statistics on it are, in terms of like percentage chance to have 2 Ice Storms by turn 10, or 2 of any given card by turn 9-10. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. It definitely is a feel bad moment though.
Where can I
Cards.
find that math? On the interwebs. On the old tubes. I mean, even if I can't find the original Reddit post, like you can go and like there's lots of like drawing simulators and things like that that you can plug stuff into.
I tend to agree with Kenny Dodo what he said about one of the more issue thing. Yeah, the bigger issues is the single cards that carry a deck, and I don't think Sora even is in that category anymore because they printed like 3 counters to it.
I'm not worried about Sora Revenge anymore.
Yeah, they literally the last 2 expansions had 3 counters to that deck. They had cast in Hand of Dagoth and they had Lost Magister, but yeah, stuff like, and that's one of the big issues with Drain Vitality, a card that carries a deck that the power spikes when you draw that card.
Right.
Just lead to like huge amounts of variance, and that can be really frustrating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's annoying, but as I'm trying to think through like the history of Legends, even from like open beta launch, that's kind of always existed.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's never not going to be a thing. There's always, I mean, like even Skullcon too, like that kind of thing. That's a huge spike in win rate.
Opening day, for those of you who weren't around when the game came into open beta or like the end of closed beta, Burn and Pillage was the power spike. It just won you the game card. Like, even to this day, there has been nothing that has been as one-sidedly deciding of games like Burn and Pillage was. Like, the original Burn and Pillage was just bonkers. But like, even going further, Crystal Tower Crafter was like that deck for Action Mage for a long, or Action Assassin for a long time. Like, there's a bunch. I'm not defending that as saying that's okay necessarily from a design standpoint. I'm just saying that having that feel bad of there are certain cards that carry decks is been a thing.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that Unglim Shuffle's Assassin at the top of the deck. I don't know what the hell that
is. Unless I'm playing it.
Yeah, unless
right.